Some experiences stay with you forever, not because you understand them, but because you never do. Tonight, I'll share true stories from people who still can't explain what they saw or who was watching them in the dark. 5 years ago, I walked away from a relationship that had been a part of my life for almost a decade. We met in high school, survived college together, and honestly, I thought we'd eventually get married. When it ended, it felt like I had to relearn how to live. Dating again wasn't easy. I had no idea how adults even met people anymore. So like everyone else, I downloaded a few dating apps. Most conversations died after a day or two. The dates I went on were awkward, forgettable, and never led anywhere. Then I matched with JoJo. Her real name was Josefina, but she hated hearing it. "Please don't ever call me that," she laughed during our first conversation. "Everyone calls me JoJo." She was funny, easy to talk to, and surprisingly honest. Since we'd both recently come out of long-term relationships, neither of us wanted to rush anything. We agreed to take things slowly. For the first few weeks, everything felt normal. Dinner dates, long phone calls, late-night texting, weekend coffee. It was the healthiest start to a relationship I'd ever had. Then something changed. Almost every day, JoJo asked me the same question. "Would you stay over tonight?" Every single time, I politely said no. It wasn't because I didn't like her, I just wasn't ready. Sleeping over felt like crossing a line I wasn't prepared for after everything I'd been through. But she never stopped asking. Eventually, I looked at her and smiled. "Okay, what's the real reason?" The smile disappeared from her face. She stared down at the table, quietly twisting the sleeve of her sweater around her fingers. "I don't think you'll believe me." "I will." "No. You'll think I'm crazy." "I promise I won't." She stayed silent for almost 30 seconds before finally speaking. "For the last few weeks, I've been waking up in the middle of the night. Every single night, and every single time. Someone is standing in the corner of my bedroom." I blinked. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't joking. She looked genuinely terrified. At first, she said she blamed it on the darkness. Maybe clothes hanging over a chair. Maybe shadows from the streetlights outside. But every morning, nothing was there. No furniture. No coats. Nothing that could create the shape she'd been seeing. As the nights passed, the figure became clearer, taller, closer. She started sleeping with her bedside lamp on. The figure disappeared from the corner. Instead, it appeared inside her closet, standing perfectly still behind the slightly open door. She stopped sleeping in her bedroom completely. One night she moved to the living room sofa. She thought that would finally end it. Instead, she woke up around 3 in the morning. The same figure was standing silently in the doorway between the hallway and the living room, watching her, not moving, not speaking, just watching. She admitted she hadn't slept properly in weeks. Dark circles had formed under her eyes. She was constantly exhausted. "I thought I was losing my mind," she whispered. "The worst part, I finally proved I wasn't imagining it." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "The night before last, I picked up one of my stuffed animals. I threw it at the figure." She swallowed hard. "It didn't hit the wall. It hit something." For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I honestly didn't know what to say. Part of me felt awful for her. Another part of me believed she was simply suffering from sleep deprivation. JoJo's apartment was small but cozy. The living room connected to a narrow hallway, and at the end of that hallway was the bedroom where she claimed she'd been seeing the figure. We ordered takeout, watched a movie, and tried to act like everything was normal. She smiled. She laughed. but every few minutes I'd catch her glancing toward the dark hallway. Around 11:30 p.m., she was already exhausted. "I haven't slept properly in weeks," she admitted. Within minutes, she fell asleep on the couch with her head resting against my shoulder. I stayed awake watching TV. Eventually, I drifted off too. I don't know what time it was when I felt someone shaking my arm. My eyes opened. JoJo was staring at me with tears running down her face. "Don't move," she whispered. I immediately sat upright. "What happened?" She slowly raised one trembling finger toward the hallway. "Look." At first, I saw nothing. The apartment was almost completely dark. Then, my eyes adjusted. There was something standing in the bedroom doorway. It looked like a person, completely black. No face, no movement, just standing there, watching us. Every logical explanation I had been telling myself suddenly disappeared. I rubbed my eyes. The figure was still there. I whispered, "Stay here." She grabbed my wrist so tightly it actually hurt. "Please don't. It's probably just a shadow." "It isn't." I looked around for something to test it. A throw pillow sat beside me. I picked it up. JoJo immediately started crying. "Please don't throw it." "I have to." I threw the pillow as hard as I could. Instead of flying through empty space, thud. It struck something solid. The pillow dropped to the floor. The figure slowly stepped backward into the bedroom. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. Then, a whisper, soft, slow, coming from inside the dark room. I couldn't understand a single word. Every instinct told me to leave. Instead, I walked toward the doorway. One step, then another. As soon as I reached the entrance, slam! The bedroom door smashed shut right in front of my face. JoJo screamed. Inside the room, it sounded like complete chaos. Furniture scraped across the floor. Books crashed against the walls. Glass shattered. Something heavy slammed into the window. The entire apartment shook. Then, everything stopped. Absolute silence. I grabbed my keys and used the small lockpick tool attached to my keychain. After several seconds, the lock clicked open. I pushed the door open. The room looked like it had been destroyed by a tornado. The desk was flipped over, books covered the floor, papers were everywhere. The window stood wide open. Cold air poured into the room, but there was no one inside. We searched every corner. Nothing. No footprints, no signs anyone had entered. Nothing. JoJo stayed at my apartment for the next few nights. When we finally returned to her place, the figure never appeared again. 5 years have passed since that night. Today, we're engaged. She still believes we witnessed something supernatural. I still think there has to be a logical explanation. Even if I've never been able to find one, sometimes I wonder what would have been worse. A ghost standing in that doorway, or a real person silently watching us while we slept. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true horror stories every week. Sleep carefully, because sometimes the scariest things don't make a sound.